So the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for 2025 has been announced, and this year it tackles one of the biggest questions out there. Where does economic growth actually come from? We're not just talking about a good quarter or a bad quarter. We're talking about the kind of relentless, world-changing progress that has completely reshaped human life in just the last couple of centuries. Okay, so to really get why this is a Nobel-winning idea, you first have to understand the sheer scale of the mystery our laureates were trying to solve. It's a puzzle that goes back thousands of years. For almost all of human history, life for your great-great-great, well, you get the point, grandparents was pretty much identical to the life of their grandparents and theirs before them. Progress was so glacially slow that you basically wouldn't notice it in your own lifetime. And what's so wild is that it wasn't for a lack of brilliant ideas. I mean, look at this chart from England. You had world-changing inventions like the heavy plow, the printing press, even Newton figuring out the laws of the universe. But despite all that genius, the line for the average person's income, stubbornly, shockingly flat. Long-run growth was pretty much zero. And then, boom, in what is basically a blink of an eye in historical terms, right around the Industrial Revolution, that ancient pattern that had held for millennia just shattered. And the change was just staggering. We went from nothing to an absolute explosion of growth. In places like the UK and the US, average incomes didn't just nudge up, they shot up like a rocket. You get this famous hockey stick shape that economists talk about, and the key thing is, it never stopped. It just kept going.
So, this is it. This is the big question. How did we build this incredible growth engine in the first place? And maybe even more importantly, what's the fuel that keeps it running today? This is what our Nobel laureates figured out.
Right, so the first half of the prize goes to the economic historian Joel Mokyr. His work explains how we first got this engine started. He dug into that pivotal moment in history to figure out what the secret ingredients were. Mokyr's big idea comes down to two different kinds of knowledge. Think about it. For most of history, you had prescriptive knowledge. This is the how-to stuff, the artisan's craft, the blacksmith's technique. They knew that a method worked, but not really why. And then, in a totally separate world, you had propositional knowledge, the science, the theory, the deep understanding of why it works. And for centuries, these two worlds just didn't talk to each other. So what changed? Mokyr calls it the Industrial Enlightenment. For the very first time, the why people, the scientists, started talking and collaborating with the how people, the engineers and inventors. Suddenly, science could be used to systematically improve technology, and in return, better technology, like new telescopes, gave scientists new tools to push the boundaries of knowledge even further. And this connection created this incredibly powerful self-sustaining cycle. Science informs technology. That new technology creates growth, and that growth then funds and inspires new scientific questions. The whole thing starts feeding on itself, getting faster and faster, finally breaking that ancient curse of stagnation. Now, of course, it wasn't just about ideas floating in the air. Mokyr points out two other absolutely essential ingredients. First, you needed what he calls mechanical competence, a whole bunch of skilled craftspeople who could actually take a blueprint and build the thing. And second, you needed a society that was actually open to these radical new ideas, with political systems that could push back against all the people who wanted to keep things the way they were. Okay, so if Mokyr explained how the engine got started, the other half of the prize goes to Philippe Aghion and Peter Howitt. Their work is all about how we keep that engine humming in our modern, chaotic world. And the core of their theory is this amazing concept called creative destruction. It's just the perfect phrase, isn't it? It's creative because it's all about new ideas and innovation, but it's also destructive because every new thing that comes along, every better mousetrap, makes the old one obsolete. The top dog today is always looking over their shoulder for the next big thing. And this is not some abstract theory, let me tell you. In the US economy, more than 10% of all companies either appear or disappear every single year. That is a massive amount of churn. Our economy isn't some placid lake, it's a storm. And what Aghion and Howitt did was build a model that explains how all that chaos at the micro level actually creates stable growth for all of us. So how does it work? Well, it all starts with a really powerful incentive. The dream of becoming number one, of cornering the market, and making monopoly profits, even for just a little while, is what drives companies to sink billions and billions of dollars into research and development. It's a mad dash to the top of the hill. But, and this is the genius part, there's a catch. The very R&D that you're doing to get to the top also speeds up the overall pace of innovation for everyone. And that means the amount of time you actually get to be the king of the hill gets shorter and shorter. The race to innovate ensures that nobody stays on top for long. It's a relentless treadmill that powers the whole economy forward. Okay, so let's put these two big ideas together, because this is where it gets really important for us today. The main takeaway here is that growth is not a given. It's not a law of nature. It's a machine that we built and a machine that we have to maintain. And what's so powerful about Aghion and Howitt's work is it shows us how tricky it is to keep this machine tuned. It reveals this deep dilemma for policymakers. On the one hand, you could argue the government should support R&D more, right? Because the benefits of a new idea help everybody, not just the company that made it. But on the other hand, their model shows that the intense desire to just steal business from a competitor can lead companies to wastefully pour money into R&D, creating a slightly better product just to get an edge. There are no easy answers here. And looking through the lens of our laureates, you can start to spot the modern threats to this growth machine. You've got giant, dominant companies that might be snuffing out competition before it can even get started. You have wavering public support for the kind of basic science that fuels the whole system. And you have resistance from people who feel left behind by change, which is a story as old as the Industrial Revolution itself. But it is not all doom and gloom, not by a long shot. Their frameworks also help us see incredible new opportunities on the horizon. I mean, think about something like AI. It fits perfectly into Mokyr's model, right? It's a tool that could supercharge that feedback loop between the why and the how, between pure science and real-world application, and potentially kick off a whole new era of progress. So, look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The world we live in, a world of constant change and improvement, is weird. It's the exception. For nearly all of human history, stagnation was the norm. This era of sustained growth we're in, it is a fragile and very recent invention. And that really leaves us with a final, crucial question. These Nobel laureates showed us that growth isn't automatic. It's a complex machine we designed and built. So as we face all of today's challenges, the big question is, are we going to do what it takes to protect and upgrade this machine? Or are we going to take it for granted and risk letting the whole thing grind to a halt?